If you know anything about the 2024 NBA draft, you've heard of these guys, Ron Holland and Matas Buzelis. One of them is probably going to be the number 1 pick. Tell me, which one are you choosing? Ron Holland is a crazy athlete. He's big, strong, fast, can score, defend, and he's actually skilled. But what about Lithuanian unicorn Matas Buzelis? Buzelis can shoot, dribble, pass, dunk, he can do it all. But never has a G League Ignite player ever been the number 1 pick in the draft. Is that going to change this year? Maybe. Does that mean they're going to be successful NBA players? History says no. When I tell you 12 Ignite players have made the NBA and 2 have been top 3 picks, you'd assume the G League Ignite has been a major success.
Great success.
You are wrong. The G League Ignite is failing, and I'm gonna tell you why. But first of all, how did we get here? The NCAA was exploiting student athletes for a century. These top draft picks coming out of high school couldn't go to the NBA till they were 19. And were forced to go play in college for free, risk getting injured, missing out on life-changing wealth, while the NCAA took 100% of the profits from everything. Sadly, there was no logical alternative until in 2017 a madman named LeVar Ball said this ain't right and decided to do something about it. He created his own JBA league, an alternate path that gave high school players an opportunity to make money and hoop before declaring for the draft. I know the JBA league only lasted 1 season, but the blueprint was there, and in 2018, the NBA with all the resources saw what happened, took the idea, ran with it, and did it on a bigger scale. That's how we have G League Ignite. And in 2023, more and more prospects aren't going to college. They're going to the G League. Why? Because it's an easy sell. Let's compare the 2 options. You're a 5-star high school player. You can go to the G League and get paid up to $500k a year in salary, or you can go to college and play for nothing. Financially, everyone's picking the G League. But what about the one thing more important than money? The basketball. In the G League, you face tougher competition. Everyone's a professional, you have a mix of NBA vets, 2-way rookies, undrafted gems, and pros from overseas. In college, only 1.2% of NCAA D1 players ever make the NBA. The rest can be found all across America working 9 to 5s. If your goal is to play in the NBA, are you going to spend a year studying, knowing you'll not be in school long enough to ever graduate? Or are you going to take the bag and turn professional as quickly as possible? Objectively speaking, in 2023, the G League Ignite is the best path for top draft prospects coming out of high school. Other than nostalgia, tradition, and being skeptical of what's new, why would anyone choose college over the G League? Maybe that skepticism is well warranted.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
Let's look at every player that chose the G League Ignite over college. The ones that got drafted, and the ones that didn't. No, we're not talking about your Norris Coles and Jarrett Jacks. I'm talking about the youngsters. Starting with their first and biggest signing to date. Jalen Green was one of the most hyped high school prospects in the social media era. He was ESPN's number 1 prospect in the 2020 recruiting class. He had offers from all these D1 schools, but instead of going to college, he became the first ever player to sign with G League Ignite. His salary was worth $600,000. Jalen Green averaged 17.9 points, 4.1 rebounds, and 2.8 assists per game in the G League. But was he the number 1 pick? No. The Pistons drafted the guy that went to college instead. Despite not going number 1, the G League didn't negatively impact his draft stock because he was still picked top 2. Jalen Green finished 4th in Rookie of the Year voting, he made the All-Rookie first team, and has been a consistent scorer every year in the NBA. Now, averaging 22 points per game as a sophomore in the NBA is good and a lot better than anyone else from Ignite, but a lot of people are saying it's giving Andrew Wiggins vibes. People are starting to call Jalen Green a bust and saying that the numbers are a little misleading. Jalen Green can get buckets and that's about it. He's a bad defender, below average facilitator, and very inconsistent scorer. In other words, an inefficient shot chucker. Does he still have all-star potential? Absolutely. But right now, Jalen Green isn't close to that. He has a solid supporting cast, great head coach, he was expected to take a leap this season, and he hasn't. He's pretty much the same Jalen Green from his rookie year. he isn't getting any better, and that's something to be worried about. That being said, Jalen Green has done way better than the other top 3 pick to come out of G League Ignite. Remember how Hornets fans reacted to passing a certain someday up at number 2?
The Charlotte Hornets select Brandon Miller.
That's what they said. DKM said this. This is one of those decisions that even those idiots at the Spectrum Center last night will look back on like, wow, we almost passed on this guy for that guy. Lucky we didn't do that. Brandon Miller is doing his thing, only Wemby is ahead of him in Rookie of the Year voting. When you check out the rest of that list, you don't see Scoot Henderson. And that's because Scoot Henderson has had a historically bad start to his NBA career. As a starter, Scoot Henderson averaged these atrocious stats. He shot 8% from the 3-point line. That means if you take 100 3-pointers, you're making less than 10. In his first few games he got injured, was sent back to the G League and lost his starting spot on the Blazers. They drafted this guy out of the G League to replace Damian Lillard, and he ended up back in the G League. Now since returning from injury, Scoot has been slightly better than he was, but that isn't hard, because he couldn't get much worse. So far, he's averaging these numbers on the season. Every now and then you'll see a decent stat line pop up on the timeline. Don't be fooled, a lot of that production is coming in garbage time. I'm not gonna lie, he's even worse than I thought he'd be, and I thought he was the most overrated draft prospect in years. Yes, Scoot Henderson was a top 5 player in high school, so was everybody. He played 2 years at Ignite, made $1 million. He wasn't anything special, just another athletic 6'2 guard that can't shoot the 3. How many of those guys are actually successful in the NBA? But that's not all. Scoot isn't a great finisher, he's a good, not great passer, his handle is nothing special, and by the way, even his athleticism is overrated. He isn't some Russell Westbrook, D Rose, Ja Morant type athlete. Anyone that told you Scoot Henderson was a generational talent probably watched him play that one exhibition game against Victor Wembanyama and made their mind up there and then. I couldn't believe the hype around this player. Everyone ignored the fact that Scoot shut it down early in the G League because he'd apparently proven enough, when let's be real, he shut it down to protect his plummeting draft stock because he was stinking it up in the G League. Even now with the way Scoot's playing in Portland, if he wasn't a top 3 pick with a signature shoe, he'd be with the Rip City remix right now in the G League. Okay, maybe that's a bit harsh. Since December 1st, Scoot's averaging these stats. While the efficiency still isn't good, it's not historically bad anymore, which is an improvement. But I never said Scoot Henderson was a bad player. I said, Scoot Henderson looks like a high school player thrown onto an NBA floor. And who's to blame for that? Probably G League Ignite. Because Scoot and Jalen Green were the top 3 picks. But they weren't the only number 1 high school prospects that went to G League Ignite, because Jonathan Kuminga was the number 1 player in the country before he reclassified. Instead of going to college, he joined G League Ignite, earned $500,000, averaged 15.8 points, 7.2 rebounds, and 2.7 assists. Kuminga started off really strong, then hit a wall and became inconsistent. His athleticism and upside was insane, it still is. But the G League really exposed some of the deficiencies in his game, some of which we still see today, that weren't so obvious in high school. And as the year went on, he began to slip down the draft boards, and fell outside of the top 3. The Golden State Warriors drafted Kuminga with the 7th pick. People were calling him the steal of the draft. His rookie season, Kuminga didn't get much opportunity. He was assigned to the Santa Cruz Warriors several times, because Golden State were the best team in basketball. They won 18 of their first 20 regular season games, they were in win now mode, and as a result of that, the development of their young players wasn't a priority. Whatever they tried to do paid off. The Golden State Warriors made the finals, beat the Celtics in 6, and became NBA champions again. Jonathan Kuminga was the youngest NBA champion since Darko Milicic, Curry won his first finals MVP, and the Warriors ain't been the same since. A big reason for that is that the next generation of Warriors haven't kicked on as expected. Jordan Poole and James Wiseman are no longer Warriors. Moses Moody is yet to take that next leap, and Jonathan Kuminga, while he has improved recently, for most of his NBA career has looked like a high school player. You look at his numbers from year 1 to 3 and it's the exact same. Guess what? It's just come out that Jonathan Kuminga doesn't want to play for Coach Kerr no more. Their relationship is finished. Everything is falling apart in Golden State. Moses Moody doesn't want to be there either. Expect both of those guys to be traded real soon. Kuminga has all the potential in the world. He can be an all-NBA defender. He has the skills and attributes to be a good offensive player too. But he just isn't that yet. And if you haven't noticed, this is becoming a recurring theme with these G League Ignite guys. Same can be said for Dyson Daniels, 6'7" point guard, picked 8th in the draft. His case was a little different though. He's Australian, so he never played high school basketball. Still, he signed with G League Ignite and even played against NBA players in the 2022 Rising Stars game. As a prospect, Dyson Daniels was a Swiss Army knife. Tall point guard, can shoot, drive, pass, defend. These type of guards are exactly what NBA teams are looking for right now. For Ignite, Daniels averaged 12 points, 6.1 rebounds, 5.1 assists and 2 steals per game. He led the Ignite in 2 of those categories. The New Orleans Pelicans chose him with the 8th pick in the draft. Daniels played 59 NBA games last season, averaged 3.8 points, 3.2 rebounds and 2.3 assists. Now I gotta be fair, the stats don't do him justice. Dyson Daniels was impactful his rookie year, and this season he's continued to be a standout perimeter defender, and because of this he's getting more minutes. He's averaging 1.5 steals, but offensively, for a guy that's playing 25 minutes a night, he isn't offering much. 6.9 points, 3.1 assists, 4.6 rebounds. Yeah, he's improved from his rookie year, a bit, but then again, nothing crazy. He's shooting 25% from 3, 40% from the field. I'm not saying he's a bust or a terrible player, but when you draft a guy in the top 10, you're hoping for better production than what Dyson Daniels has produced so far in the NBA. A bit like Jonathan Kuminga, he's a lottery pick, playing like a role player. Here's a guy who was a top player in high school, could have went to Duke, could have went to Kentucky, took the bag, joined G League Ignite and fell out of the first round. This player is Jaden Hardy. He was the number 2 ranked player by ESPN, ahead of Paolo Banchero, Jabari Smith and Amoni Bates. So how was he the 37th pick in the draft? With Ignite, Hardy averaged 17.7 points, 4.6 rebounds, 3.2 assists and 1.3 steals per game, which is actually pretty similar to Jalen Green's stats with Ignite. It looks really good until you see the 3.5 turnovers and that he shot 35% from the field and 27% from 3. Hardy was considered a selfish, inefficient volume scorer, and we all know the NBA ain't too high on those guys. Jaden Hardy spent a lot of his rookie season in the G League and with the Texas Legends. He was way better in Texas than he was with Ignite. He averaged 28.8 points per game, similar assists and rebounds, but check this, he shot 55% from the field and 49% from 3-point range. Jaden Hardy's performances in the G League earned him some playing time in Dallas. On his NBA debut he scored 22 points, he averaged these stats for his rookie year. Bear in mind, he's a guard playing on the same team as Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. He's not going to get much playing time no matter what he does. This season, he's played 21 plus minutes just one time, and what did he do? Score 19 points on 5 of 7 shooting. Jaden Hardy is a nice player with a lot of talent. Had he been drafted in the lottery, been given the keys for his own team, his NBA situation might look a little different right now. But the reality is, he's a backup point guard barely playing 15 minutes a night. Now for a 2nd round pick on a 2-way contract, he's done very well for himself. But for a guy that was a potential number 1 pick in high school, it's been a disappointing start to his career. Now would his situation have been different had he gone to college instead of Ignite? We can only speculate. Does anyone remember Isaiah Todd? McDonald's All-American high school star with D1 offers from Michigan, Kansas, Kentucky and UNC? He's another that took the bag and went to G League Ignite. And 3 years later, he's still at G League Ignite.
I'm not on any draft boards. I don't know where I'm going to go in the draft. And being, the former number 1 player in this class, that means something to me.
So here's what happened. Isaiah Todd was heavily featured for Ignite. He averaged 12.3 points and 4.9 rebounds on decent shooting splits. He was selected 31st in the 2021 NBA draft by the Bucks, was traded to the Wizards, spent 2 years in Washington, played a grand total of 12 NBA games, averaged 1.6 points, 1.3 rebounds, shot 22% from the field and 19% from free. He couldn't get on the floor for one of the worst NBA teams.
What will the Washington Wizards get with Isaiah Todd?
The Washington Wizards going to end up with a championship messing with me.
During these 2 years, Todd played with the Capital City Go-Go's in the G League. He put up these stats his first year and surprisingly regressed in year 2. This summer he was a part of the Bradley Beal trade with Phoenix and was very quickly waived by the Suns. And now he's right back where he started, with G League Ignite. Only this time, he's not a priority. They aren't heavily featuring him to boost his draft stock. He's playing under 15 minutes a night and is averaging 4.8 points per game. Now I know McDonald's All-Americans go to the NBA all the time and fail, but if you told Isaiah Todd after signing with Ignite in 2020 that he'd still be there in 2024, I think he'd have chosen to go to college. Same draft class, we got Dashien Nix, a McDonald's All-American that could have gone to Kansas, Kentucky or UCLA. He'd actually committed to the Bruins before backtracking and joining G League Ignite for $300k. Unlike a lot of the others, Nix wasn't a starter with Ignite. He averaged 8.8 points, 5.3 rebounds and 5.5 assists. Pretty well-rounded numbers off the bench. He went undrafted, but after impressing with the 76ers at Summer League, he signed with the Houston Rockets. He played most of his rookie season with the Rio Grande Valley Vipers, averaged 20.6 points, 7.7 assists, 5.9 rebounds and 2 steals, stats that were way better than his numbers with Ignite, but that's not all. Nix led the Valley Vipers to the G League Finals, he averaged a near triple-double in the G League playoffs. In game 1 of the finals, he had 31, 12 and 11, he had 20, 11 and 8 in game 2, somehow he didn't win finals MVP, but his team won the G League championship. Dashien Nix was becoming an undrafted success story, signing a 4-year deal with the Houston Rockets. It's very rare an undrafted player signs a long-term contract like that. However, things weren't as good as they seemed. In the 2022-23 season, Nix played 57 games with the Rockets. He didn't impress, his stats weren't any better than his rookie year, and he was waived by the Rockets in 2023. He did get himself another NBA shot with the Minnesota Timberwolves, but this season, his situation isn't any better. He's back in the G League with the Iowa Wolves, he's putting up some big numbers, but we know what Nix can do in the G League, we've seen it before. He's only played 6 games with the Timberwolves this season. He's averaging 1.3 points per game in under 4 minutes. And unfortunately for him, unlike the Rockets last season, Minnesota are actually good for once. They ain't got time for young players, they're trying to win. So because of that, I can't imagine Nix is going to get any playing time at the NBA level anytime soon. Now we got another one from the 2022 NBA draft, a first round pick selected 24th by the Milwaukee Bucks, Marjon Beauchamp. Now he's a little different. He wasn't a McDonald's All-American or social media star. He played high school ball all over the country and actually played JUCO college basketball before joining Ignite in 2021. Growing up, Marjon became tired of constantly moving from state to state, so he took a year off and considered quitting basketball. After training individually, he decided to join a local college, and as a freshman, he put up insane numbers. 30.7 points, 10.5 rebounds, 4.8 assists, 1.3 steals and 1.1 blocks. All the D1 schools that overlooked him in high school came running right back. Beauchamp wasn't feeling college and went to G League Ignite instead. During the 2021-22 season, Beauchamp averaged 15.1 points, 7.3 rebounds, 2.3 assists and 1.6 steals. He was a breakout star that took everyone by surprise. Despite being on a championship contending team and still early in his development, Beauchamp actually spent most of his time in the NBA with the Bucks. In his rookie season in 52 games, Beauchamp averaged 5.1 points and 2.2 rebounds. He wasn't very efficient, but this season, that changed. While his averages are still the same, his percentages are a lot better. Marjon Beauchamp is probably the Bucks' best young player. He put in a lot of work in the offseason, He travelled to Greece to work out with Giannis and even dropped a record 83 points in Jamal Crawford's Summer Rec League. Marjon is a versatile young player with two-way potential and good athleticism. The type of guy that does have a role in this league, but like so many others on this list, what has he actually done in the NBA? Same goes for Leonard Miller, the 33rd pick in the 2023 draft. He had 25 offers coming out of college, and like everyone on this list, joined G League Ignite instead. Leonard Miller is a bizarre case. He was relatively unknown going into the draft, a side character in the Scoot Henderson show, but despite being slept on, Miller averaged 18 points and 11 rebounds per game. He shot 55% from the field, and despite his unorthodox mechanics, he even showed potential as a shooter. Leonard was a 6'10" power forward, averaging an efficient double-double against grown men in the G League. I know they don't want to talk about it, but he was Ignite's best player last season and still fell into the second round. Despite an impressive showing at Summer League in Vegas, Miller isn't getting any burn on an NBA floor at all. He's played in 3 NBA games, totaled 6 minutes of playing time. I'm not even going to read out his stats because it's just unfair. He plays for the Timberwolves, they're the best team in the West. He's probably going to end up spending most of his season with the Iowa Wolves in the G League. Okay, he's a second round pick, it'll take time. But once again, we have another guy who was a top player coming out of high school, went to the G League, and now he can't get on an NBA floor. Did I mention the guy the Spurs drafted from France? One of the top prospects coming out of Europe? No, not Wemby, thank God he never went Ignite. I'm talking about 6'8" forward Sidy Cissoko. He played for Barcelona in the Liga ACB, was considered the best international prospect not named Wembanyama until he joined G League Ignite. He became the first European to ever sign with the program and was inspired to do so by guess who? Dyson Daniels. In 28 games, Cissoko averaged 12.8 points, 3.5 assists, 2.8 rebounds, 1.2 steals and a block. His shooting splits were respectable, he featured at All-Star Weekend in the Rising Stars game and showed some real promise towards the end of the G League season, scoring 20 or more points in 5 consecutive games. That sounds nice and all, but he struggled to make a team. He was drafted late in the second round, and it wasn't until he proved himself at Summer League that he actually signed with the Spurs. Considering the team he plays for, I'm sure his nationality helped him make the team. The only NBA team worse than the Spurs is the Detroit Pistons. Cissoko has played just 4 minutes all season. He's in Austin right now playing with the Spurs G League team. The stats are better than last year. He's an intriguing prospect with versatility and upside, but the bottom line is he's still in the G League. So is Mojave King, who was picked shortly after Cissoko in the 2023 draft. The Lakers picked him 47th and then traded him to the Pacers. King was an international prospect. He turned down offers from Arizona, Oregon, Virginia and Baylor. He played in Australia's NBL as a part of their Next Stars program. Other notable guys to do this are LaMelo Ball, RJ Hampton and Josh Giddey. King played 2 seasons in the NBL with the Cairns Taipans and Adeline 36ers. He got some pro experience, made some money, averaged these stats, and in 2022 he decided to go to the G League. Started in the majority of the Showcase Cup games, was benched in the regular season and averaged 11.5 points, 3.7 rebounds and 1.7 assists on below 40% shooting from the field and free. Despite being just the 3rd New Zealand born player to ever be drafted, Mojave King never actually signed with the Indiana Pacers. They own his draft rights, he played for them in Summer League, but he was never going to be a part of their NBA team this season. He could have played in Europe, gone back to Australia, or suck it up where he is now in the G League with the Indiana Mad Ants. He was welcome anywhere except with the Indiana Pacers in the NBA. But let's not forget, the G League Ignite has also taken on several project players over the years, guys with high potential that needed developed. They had Kai Soto, the Filipino star, Wemby before Wemby. He was at Ignite, disappeared, ended up in Australia, and is now back home playing in the Philippines. What about Fan Bojang? He was a nationally ranked high school player, signed with Ignite, now he's back home in China with the Beijing Ducks. Principal Singh was an Indian prodigy from the NBA Academy. He went to Ignite, played 4 games, and where is he now? Back in India! It's time to get serious. We've just gone through every single G League Ignite player that's ever been drafted, and Jalen Green is the only one that is a starter in the NBA. Let me ask you, how many guys on this list were McDonald's All-Americans in high school, joined G League Ignite, destroyed their draft stock, and are still playing in the G League to this day?
To this day!
I got an even better question. How many players went to G League Ignite and actually got better? In my opinion, 0. The G League Ignite was supposed to develop and prepare these prospects for the NBA and let them make a little money along the way. It's not working. These G League Ignite players are not ready. Even the best of them that are picked top 10 in the draft, they are struggling in the NBA. Probably because G League Ignite is really just glorified AAU basketball. It's like a showcase that nobody is watching. They are playing in empty arenas, auditioning their skills to NBA scouts. The G League Ignite team isn't playing for wins. Every player on that team is trying to establish themselves as an individual. And by the way, that's not just Ignite. That goes for the whole G League. Tell me who won the G League MVP last season. Tell me what team won the G League Championship. You can't. And that's the problem. Nobody in the G League is trying to be an Andre Ingram who stays there for a decade making 30k a year. Everybody is trying to get a contract for themselves somewhere, whether it be NBA, overseas, wherever. So not only is the G League Ignite team not trying to win, neither is their competition. Everyone is in it for themselves. Being a winning G League player ain't gonna get you a 10-day contract. Scoring 50 points, that might get you called up. This is where the Ignite players are learning the game. Instead of going to college, playing in front of massive crowds and playing in the NCAA tournament on national TV, they're playing meaningless, self-centered, your turn, my turn basketball that nobody is paying attention to. And that's why these G League Ignite guys are coming to the NBA looking like high schoolers. Do you even know who the G League Ignite coach is? It's NBA journeyman Jason Hardy. Did you know this is his first head coaching job? Now, no disrespect to the guy, but these top prospects could have gone to blue blood schools and learned from guys like Coach K, John Calipari and Roy Williams. Coaches who have decades of experience developing future NBA stars and competing for championships. Maybe the G League Ignite should consider poaching one of their coaches. Please believe I have no bias towards the NCAA, but objectively speaking, the G League Ignite has been a failure so far. They've had too much talent over the last few years to have such little success stories in the NBA. I mean, come on. LeVar's JBA League produced an all-star player before the G League Ignite. They don't want to talk about that, but that tells you everything you need to know. Let me tell you something you need to know. If you've made it up to this point in the video, you've probably enjoyed yourself. So click that big red button, subscribe to the channel, so you can watch more videos like this. Let me know your thoughts and feedback down below in the comments. Has the G League Ignite been a success? Or do you agree with me that whatever they got going on down there is failing? On that note, it's DKM signing out. Until next time, and peace.